Hello everybody, Sub-Zero the Ice Ninja here. I decided I'm going to do something a little different because kind of I have ideas. Because I don't want my channel just to be Let's Play Mario Kart 8 like every Saturday, even though it's not Saturday, it's actually Monday, 5/24 Monday. I'm back to school when everyone's up. I'm back to school as well. So I thought I'd make this quick video here. I'm going to be doing a History of Controllers series. I'm going to start with Xbox first, and then I might do PlayStation afterwards, and maybe Nintendo then. I decided to start with Xbox because there's only really, apart from variations like the Xbox One Elite and that one Xbox 360 controller I can't remember the name of, I technically own all of them except for the Duke. So, suppose we get started then. Of course, the first one that come out was the one that I don't own. It was the Duke for the original Xbox. It's the one that I don't own. But it's pretty infamous for being huge. That's why it was called the Duke. It was also known as the Fatty as well. But it was like really huge. I never felt the Duke before, but many people say it's like holding the Wii U gamepad. Granted, it's not as large as the Wii U gamepad. I mean, I still think this take the cake as the biggest controller ever. But people did say it did feel like holding one. Many people complained about it, to the point where the Duke didn't even get released in Japan whenever the Xbox came out. Which didn't really matter because in Japan the Xbox sold like hot garbage anyway. And anyway, after the Duke and after the response from all the Xbox fans, Microsoft came out with the Xbox S controller. This one here was really noticeably smaller version of the Duke. The Duke had two analog sticks. Like it had all the buttons of the Duke: D-pad, start and select, and of course these white and black buttons and the two triggers at the back. But there was also these here, which I believe you put in memory cards or something, and I believe there's also this is like a port for the Halo 2 chat headset. So this was a significant upgrade from the Duke. It just goes to show, bigger is not always better. So they also improved the D-pad here as well, and would it be strange to say that I think this actually has the best D-pad out of all Xbox controllers, even the Xbox One controller. And of course your A, B, X, and Y. Now one thing that did look good with the Duke was the actual button layout. This one here has that traditional diamond shape. But the Duke had it sort of like all close together, smushed together. That way you can actually hold your thumb on it and press different buttons like with your whole thumb. That way you can lay it all over, but right here you're pretty much limited to A and X or Y and B. Unless you try to hold your thumb like that. So the S controller definitely was a significant improvement over the Duke. And it showed as well because the Duke never got released in Japan, and this was the main controller in Japan. The Duke did get released in America, and not 100% sure about Europe. One thing I do know, the Duke didn't get released in Japan, it was only this. Now, even though the Duke was incredibly huge and the S was a significant improvement, it was still a bit bulky, and it was still like big in the hands and all that, and also it had a weird feel to it. Microsoft improved it again with the Xbox 360 controller. This isn't the official Xbox 360 controller, this is actually the Afterglow one, but it's so similar. Like the only difference is the start and back buttons up here. They're up here where normally they're like around here. So the Xbox 360 controller, of course, has two analog sticks and the diamond shaped face buttons, the home button, your start and back, and of course your triggers, just like the original Xbox controller and the Xbox controller S. But it also swapped out the white and black buttons for shoulder buttons. And this also became the primary controller used for PC games as well. You could actually use this on your PC, and yes, you can use the Afterglow one as well. The only difference between, well, there's two differences between this and the regular Xbox controller, no, the regular Xbox 360 controller. The start and back buttons are positioned up here, and they're just like small rectangles. And of course it glows as well, which there's a button back here in order to turn on. It only glows if it's plugged in though. I'll quickly plug it into my PC actually. Alright guys, got plugged into the PC, and this is the glow one. It glows blue. Brother did have a PS3 controller that glowed like this as well. But apart from that, this is basically the exact same as the regular Xbox 360 controller. Now the thing that they of course downgraded from the Xbox S controller, at least in my opinion anyway, is the D-pad. This is easily the worst D-pad ever, I'd say. Well, apart from the Nintendo Switch, which doesn't even have a D-pad. But if I had to include controllers that did have D-pads, and not just the directional buttons on the Switch, this will take the cake as being the worst. It's very mushy. It's very hard to press. Sometimes whenever I'm playing fighting games like Mortal Kombat, sometimes I'll try to do like a diagonal jump, and it wouldn't register. I've had that happen to me many times. Something I forgot to mention about the 360 controller and also the Xbox One S, the Xbox S controller and the Duke also had this, is it had this sort of like dongle cable. This is so that because of the bulk of the Xbox, and also even though the Xbox 360 isn't as bulky, if someone were to trip over it, instead of the whole console coming off the shelf, they'll just separate these. This is a pretty cool idea, I'd say. And of course the Xbox S controller also had it. Okay, finally last up we have Microsoft's latest controller. Apart from other certain variations of this controller, the Xbox One controller. This is another improvement, I'd say, over the 360. It definitely has a better D-pad. It's still not going to beat the S controller, but I still think it has a better D-pad. They did that. The buttons are better. Also, this isn't a third-party one. Also, the bigger triggers, I'd say, makes this the better choice for racing games, as well as bigger shoulder buttons here. And of course the better D-pad, as I mentioned before. Tighter sticks. All that. And other than that, it's pretty much the exact same as the 360 controller. Except for the fact the home button's now up here. But apart from all that, also, unlike the 360 controller, well, this is actually a later model of the controller. The first models, like Day 1 edition, did not have this. A headphone jack. Of course, as we all know, all late gadgets don't have a headphone jack. But before this didn't have a headphone jack, you actually had to use the headset that came with the console and plug it in here. But this is the redesigned model that not only has a headphone jack but also has Bluetooth built in as well. Also, the Xbox One S controller is pretty much the same as this, but I noticed it's little, like, whenever I play with it, like, this here is the regular Xbox One controller, but whenever I use my brother's Xbox One S controller, I notice that it's a bit wider. I don't know if it's just me, but I do feel like it does feel a bit wider than this. My brother even tried holding his Xbox One S controller and this one and agreed with the same thing. Also, the Xbox One S controller does have rubbery grips at the back as well. So, that's basically the Xbox One controller. Not a big improvement over the 360, but something that the Xbox One did sorry about that, guys. Something the Xbox One controller did innovate with was customization. The Xbox One had a Design Lab option where you could make your own Xbox One controller, where you could customize the colors of it, like the triggers and all that. It was a pretty cool idea. It was actually the thing that made my brother turn over to Xbox as well whenever I showed him it. whenever he just had fun with that just by itself. And of course, I also mentioned the Xbox One Elite controller at the start of this video, which didn't have custom colors, but it did have custom analog sticks as well as this D-pad here, where you could use like a sort of Xbox 60 style D-pad, but it's going to be much better than the Xbox 60s, that's for sure. And also had paddles at the back, a bit like the Steam controller. But other than that, the Xbox One Elite controller was quite similar to the Xbox One controller. And of course, it also has the SCUF controller option like the PS4 does. So, that was the history in Xbox controllers. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel and hit that like button if you liked it, and hit that dislike button if you disliked it. Bye everyone.